Get down and clean it properly!
Ese Coker's voice cut across the luxury Lagos venue so sharply that even the decorators stopped moving. In her ruby-red dress and cream heels, she pointed at a faint mark on the polished marble floor. Ronke Balogun stood beside her cleaning trolley in a cobalt-blue uniform, yellow gloves, still on her hands. She was the new cleaner. At least, that was what Ese believed. "I was given another section first," Ronke said calmly, "and that chemical is not approved for this floor." Ese stared at her. Then she laughed. "Madam Cleaner, nobody is paying you to think. Do what I said before. I make sure you never work in this building again." Ronke said nothing. She simply looked at the young woman who, in less than 24 hours, was supposed to be introduced to her as her son's future wife. Ese had no idea. Not yet. And what happened after that one cruel order would force an entire family to ask a dangerous question. How do you treat people when you believe they have no power over you? Don't miss what happens next. And before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. If you enjoy powerful Nigerian stories about dignity, choices, and consequences, subscribe and stay with us. Because Ese had just humiliated the one woman she should never have underestimated. 3 hours earlier, Lagos had been grey, with the kind of morning that promised rain and then held it back. At 6:20, a white staff bus turned through the service gate of Meridian House, a private events and conference property in Victoria Island. The building looked expensive from the road. Glass, pale stone, trimmed palms, men in black security uniforms standing where guests could see them. The back entrance was different. Plastic crates, delivery vans, a generator hum behind a wall. 2 cooks arguing gently over where a carton of bottled water was supposed to go. Someone had left a mop bucket in front of the fire door, and somebody else was already complaining about it. Ronke Balogun stepped down from the bus with 6 contract cleaners. Nobody turned to look twice. That was the point. She wore the same cobalt-blue tunic as the others, same light grey trousers, same black rubber-soled shoes. Her hair was cropped low, salt and pepper at the temples. No jewelry except a plain wristwatch. Her phone was in the zip pocket of a canvas tote. A younger cleaner beside her adjusted the strap of her bag and whispered, "Auntie, first time for this venue?" Ronke smiled. "Yes. Just follow Madam Tola. She knows everything here." Ronke nodded, as if that were new information. Tola Williams was already waiting inside the service corridor with a clipboard tucked under one arm. She was 37, broad-shouldered, quick on her feet, and tired in a way that did not slow her down. Her light grey uniform had a teal stripe at the collar. She wore no makeup. Her hair was braided back and covered with a simple black scarf. "Morning, everyone." "Morning, Ma." "Please. We have corporate launch by 4. Main ballroom, east corridor, washrooms, reception, and glass doors. 2 teams. Nobody should mix chemicals. If any event planner asks you to change task, tell me first, especially today." A few cleaners exchanged looks. Ronke noticed. Tola noticed that she noticed. "You're Ronke?" "Yes." "You've done commercial cleaning before?" "A long time ago." Tola looked at her hands. Ronke almost laughed. They were not the hands of a woman who had spent the last 20 years behind a desk. The nails were short. There was a pale scar across the base of her left thumb from a broken glass panel in 1998. Another small mark, near the wrist, from the old days, when she used to repair vacuum hoses herself, because paying a technician for every fault would have swallowed half a contract. Tola handed her a printed task sheet. "East corridor first, then the small lounge. If you finish, join reception. We're short 1 person." Understood. No one called her chairwoman. No one asked why A woman whose private stake in Balogun Facilities and Property Group was worth more than many listed companies was holding a mop handle before sunrise. Only 3 people in the entire group knew she was there: the group operations director, the head of compliance, and Ronke herself. Not even her son knew. The idea had begun 6 weeks earlier with a complaint that should have been ordinary. A cleaner at another venue had written, in poor English and careful block letters, that an external event organizer had made staff work through a break, then blamed them for marks caused by decorators dragging metal stands across a wet floor. The complaint was closed as communication issue. Ronke saw it by accident in a quarterly compliance pack. She asked for the other complaints. There were 11 different venues, different event companies, same pattern, not assault, not fraud, nothing dramatic enough to frighten senior management, just small humiliations. You people are too slow. Don't stand there like a fool. If this cup breaks, it will come from your salary. No break until guests leave. Do it again. Smile when I'm talking to you. Each one easy to dismiss. Together, they bothered her. Ronke had built her first cleaning company with 4 borrowed industrial vacuums and 1 second-hand van that refused to start whenever rain entered the bonnet. She remembered clients who spoke to her while looking past her. She remembered being told to use the staff toilet in a building where she had just spent 12 hours polishing the executive floor. Money had changed many things. Memory was not one of them. So she had asked operations for 1 frontline shadow shift, no ceremony, no management escort, no special treatment. Madam, the operations director had protested. You can observe from the control room. That is exactly how people become blind. Then let me assign somebody to stay with you. No security. Outside the venue if you must, not beside me. He had not liked it. He agreed anyway. Now, at 7:15, Ronke pushed a trolley along the east corridor while Tola checked her work like she would check anybody else's. Less water on marble, Tola said once. Ronke looked down. You're right? Tola raised one eyebrow. Most new cleaners defended themselves first. Ronke adjusted the mop. By 8:30, the venue had changed character. Florists came through the loading entrance with tall arrangements of white lilies and orange heliconia. A lighting crew wheeled black flight cases into the ballroom. Men in branded polo shirts assembled a product display shaped like a curved wall. Caterers rolled in steel warming cabinets. And then Ese Coker arrived. She did not walk into a room so much as reorganize it. Those flowers are too low. Move that screen 2 feet left. No, not there. I said left. Who signed for the staging? Where is Kelvin? Why are those chairs still wrapped? Her phone was against one ear. Another phone was in her hand. A tablet was tucked under her arm. Her ruby-red outfit was elegant enough for a client meeting, but sharp enough to look like armor. She was beautiful. Ronke noticed that first. Then she noticed the way Ese smiled at a man in a navy suit coming from the ballroom. Mr. Adekunle. Good morning. Everything is on schedule. The smile remained until he passed. Then Ese turned to a decorator. What is this? The decorator followed her finger. A faint black crescent sat on the marble where a display base had been dragged. Ah, it must be from the stand. We'll remove it. You'll remove it when? After the client sees it? We just need. Please, don't explain incompetence to me. The decorator closed his mouth. Ese looked around. Ronke was closest. You, cleaner. Ronke turned. Please remove this now. The first request was not rude. Ronke glanced at her sheet. I'm finishing the east section first. Madame Tola assigned. I'm the event planner. Ronke looked at the mark. The product on my trolley is not for that kind of scuff. I can call Tola. Ese exhaled through her nose. Call whoever you want after you clean it. I should use the approved remover. Are you serious? The decorator had gone very still. Ronke did not move. Ese stepped closer. Get down and clean it properly. That was the moment the room changed. Not because Ese raised her voice. People raised their voices in event venues all the time. It changed because everybody heard the contempt underneath the instruction. Ronke placed both hands on the trolley handle. I was given another section first, she said, and that chemical is not approved for this floor. Ese stared, then she laughed. Madam Cleaner, nobody is paying you to think. Do what I said before I make sure you never work in this building again. There it was. Not a misunderstanding. Not yet a pattern, perhaps. But not a misunderstanding. Tola appeared from the ballroom. Is there a problem? Yes, Ese said. Your new cleaner is refusing instruction. Tola examined the mark. She's correct. We need the neutral remover from stores. Ese looked from Tola to Ronke. So 2 cleaners are now managing my event. Tola's face did not change. No, Ma, we're managing the floor finish. For half a second, Ronke almost smiled. She did not. Ese folded her arms. Fine. Get your remover. But I want this gone in 5 minutes. It will take what it takes without damaging the surface, Tola said. Ese's eyes narrowed. She turned and walked away. The decorator released the breath he had been holding. Madam Tola, he murmured, this woman today. Tola gave him a look. Go and lift your stand. Don't drag it again, he went. Tola handed Ronke a small key. Storeroom. 2nd shelf. White bottle. Ronke took it. You handled that well. Tola shrugged. If I fight every event planner, I won't have work by December. The sentence landed harder than Ese's insult. Ronke looked at her. What do you do when they cross the line? Depends which line. That answer worries me. Tola gave her a tired half-smile. You're new. Give Lagos 1 week. Ronke walked to the storeroom. She did not tell Tola that she had been doing business in Lagos before Tola finished secondary school. She did not tell her she owned the company, that owned the management company, that held the majority operating interest in Meridian House. She simply collected the correct bottle. The scuff came off in less than 2 minutes. Ese passed by again 10 minutes later. She did not say thank you. That, by itself, would not have mattered. What came next did. At 9:15, a florist asked the cleaning crew to help move 6 heavy planter boxes because his delivery boys had gone back to the truck. Tola refused politely. Our team is not covered for that lifting. The florist nodded. No problem. Ese overheard. What do you mean, not covered? It's outside our task scope, Tola said. They have hands. They also have assigned work. Ese looked at the cleaners. So everybody has a contract now? Nobody can help anybody? One of the cleaners, a young woman named Simi, lowered her eyes. Ronke watched that. Tola said, They can help with light items. Those planters are too heavy. Ese laughed once. Honestly, this is why events run late in this country. Everybody is looking for what is not their job. The florist shifted uncomfortably. I'll get my boys. Ese ignored him. She pointed at Simi. You, take that end. Simi stepped forward automatically. Ronke spoke. No, Ese turned. Ronke kept her voice level. Tola already said the load is not for us. Simi stopped. Ese walked toward Ronke. You again. Yes, what is your problem? I don't have one. You are very stubborn for somebody on her first day. Ronke glanced at the planter. Maybe, but if she injures her back, stubbornness won't pay her clinic bill. The florist cleared his throat. I said I'll bring my boys. Ese turned on him. Then why are you still standing here? He left quickly. Tola moved between Ese and the cleaners without making it look like she was doing so. Ma, let us finish the east corridor. Ese looked at Ronke. I don't want her on my floor after today. Tola's mouth tightened. That decision is not mine to make based on this. Then speak to whoever makes it. For following the task sheet, for being difficult. Tola nodded slowly. I'll document your concern. Something about the word document irritated Ese. Please don't threaten me with paperwork. I'm not threatening you. Ronke said nothing. Ese walked away again. This time, Ronke watched her longer. The question she had brought into Meridian House had been simple. Were lower-level staff being mistreated because management could not see what happened between polished guest areas and service corridors? By 10 o'clock, she already had an answer, but the day was not finished, and neither was Ese. By 10:30, Ese had discovered 3 new emergencies. The first was a lighting truss that stood 12 centimeters lower than the rendering she had approved. The second was a missing set of gold charger plates that the caterer insisted were already in the building. The third was a client assistant who wanted another registration desk added near the main doors. None of those problems belonged to the cleaning crew. By 11, all 3 somehow did. Please wipe the truss bases again. Those plates have dust from storage. Clean them. Move your trolley. No, not there. Guests will see it. Why is there tissue in this bin? Ronke looked into the bin. Because bins were designed to receive rubbish, she thought. She kept that one to herself. Ese did not shout all the time. That was what made her difficult to dismiss as merely hot-tempered. Sometimes she was soft. When the client's marketing director appeared, Ese greeted her by name, remembered that the woman took tea without sugar, asked after her mother's recovery, and personally adjusted the woman's chair before she sat. 2 minutes later, she found Simi near the side corridor. Why are you standing? I just finished the washroom, Ma. So finishing means standing. I was waiting for Madame Tola to tell me. Use your eyes. If you see dirt, clean it. Simi glanced at the clean floor. Ese followed the look. You want me to point to dirt before you see it? No, Ma. Then move. Simi moved. Ronke was cleaning glass nearby. She heard everything. Tola came over after Ese left. You okay? She asked Simi. Yes, Ma. It was too quick. Tola lowered her voice. Go and take 10 minutes. Simi shook her head. She said nobody should break now. I did not say that. She said if we break now and the client enters, she will report all of us. Tola's jaw shifted. Go and take 10 minutes. Simi looked toward the ballroom. Tola pointed down the service passage. Go. The girl went. Ronke finished the glass panel and changed cloths. How often? She asked. Tola knew what she meant. Not every planner. That wasn't my question. Tola hesitated. Enough. Do staff report it? Sometimes, and then. Sometimes something happens, and sometimes. Tola glanced around before answering. Sometimes the planner is bringing 10 events a year, and the cleaner is bringing 1 complaint. Ronke looked at her. Tola shrugged, but there was no humor in it. You asked? That sentence sat between them. At 11:40, Ese called everyone into the service hall. Listen. We have less than 4 hours. The screen test starts at 1. Client walkthrough at 2:30. Doors at 4. I need people to stop behaving as if they have all day. She looked directly at the cleaners. If I ask you to do something, do it. If you have a problem, complain after the event. Not in the middle of work. Tola raised a hand slightly. Ma, for clarity, our team still reports task changes through me. Ese stared at her. Do you want the event to succeed? Yes. Then why are you making everything complicated? I'm not. You are. You people hide behind procedure when common sense would solve the problem. Ronke watched Tola's fingers tighten around her clipboard. Not much. Just enough. Ese turned to the wider group. Professional standards are not oppression. If you want respect, show people that you can deliver first. Nobody answered. A caterer shifted his weight. A sound technician suddenly became interested in a cable. Ronke looked at Ese's face. There was conviction there. That mattered. Ese believed what she was saying. In her mind, respect was not the starting point. It was a bonus paid after satisfactory performance. Ronke had met that belief before. It wore different clothes depending on who carried it. At 12:15, Tola sent the first team to break. Ese found out 5 minutes later. Who authorized this? I did, Tola said. Now, they started before 7. I need the reception glass redone. It can wait 10 minutes. It cannot. Tola did not move. Ese lowered her voice. That was worse. Madam Tola, I am trying very hard to be respectful. Do not make me regret it. Tola's eyes hardened. Ronke saw it. But Tola only said, the break is 10 minutes. Ese gave a small smile. Fine. Then she turned to Ronke. You can stay. Ronke looked at her. Why? Because you've spent half the morning arguing. Break allocation is Tola's decision. You see? Always something to say. Ronke picked up her water bottle. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Ese stepped into her path. For the first time all morning, the corridor went quiet before anyone raised a voice. You will go when I say you can go. Ronke looked at Ese's hand resting against the wall beside her, then at Ese. I am not your employee. You are working on my event. I am working at this venue. Same thing. No. It was a small word. Ese reacted as though Ronke had slapped the table. Tola came closer. Ma, she is right. Our contract is with venue operations. You can request work through me, but you don't control staff breaks. Ese's face changed. For 1 second, the polished event planner disappeared, and Ronke saw somebody much more frightened underneath. Not frightened of Ronke, frightened of losing control. You people will ruin this event and still collect your money, Ese said. No one is trying to ruin anything, Tola replied. Then act like it. Ese stepped aside. Ronke walked past her. She could feel Ese staring at her back. In the staff room, Simi was eating rice from a plastic bowl. Another cleaner, Faith, was peeling the foil lid from yogurt. Ronke sat on a bench. Simi looked at her. Auntie, you get mine, oh? Ronke opened her water. For taking break? For talking to her like that. I didn't insult her. Simi laughed quietly. You don't need to insult some people. No is enough. Ronke drank. That line stayed with her. No is enough. How many workers under her companies had learned never to use it? She had spent years reading staff engagement scores, anonymous surveys, incident reports, attrition numbers, neat graphs, percentages, red, amber, green. None of them had ever written this sentence. No is enough. A knock came at the door. Tola entered. Ronke, yes? After break, come with me to the East store. Okay. Tola looked at the others. 10 minutes means 10. Not 20 because Madam Ese annoyed you. Simi grinned. Yes, Ma. Tola left. Ronke smiled into her bottle. Tola ran a tighter operation than some vice presidents Ronke had hired. In the East store, Tola showed Ronke a folder kept behind cleaning supplies. It was not secret. It was worse than secret. It was ignored. Incident notes, Tola said. Ronke opened the folder. Handwritten pages. Printed emails. A few forms with boxes ticked. External vendor insisted cleaners unload chairs. Planner threatened deduction for broken glass, not handled by cleaning staff. Team asked to remain 2 hours beyond shift without signed extension. Contract staff verbally abused near guest's entrance. Ronke looked up. Why are these here? I keep copies. Copies of what you submit, yes, why? Tola's mouth twisted. So I know what I said before somebody tells me I didn't say it. Ronke turned another page. Do you get responses? Sometimes. The originals? Operations has them. Why haven't you escalated beyond that? Tola looked at her strangely. To who? Ronke had an answer. She could have said, me. She didn't. Tola continued. You know how these things work. One planner says we're difficult. Another vendor says we don't cooperate. Then next month, somebody asks why our team is getting fewer shifts. Nobody says punishment. They just say business decision. Ronke closed the folder carefully. You shouldn't need to keep a private copy to feel safe. Tola gave her a look that was almost pity. You really are new. They returned to the ballroom. Ese had found the missing charger plates. They were in the caterer's own truck. No apology followed. Instead, she was fighting a different battle. The event's staging supplier had delivered 2 display panels with the wrong finish. The client wanted them corrected before doors opened. The supplier promised a replacement skin within 90 minutes. Ese did the arithmetic and did not like it. 90 minutes meant no margin. No margin meant no time for mistakes. No time for mistakes meant, in Ese's mind, nobody else was allowed to have a limit. At 1:15, she told Tola, your people will have to stay through too. Break later. They already took break. I mean lunch. Tola looked at the schedule. Some finish at 3. They can eat after. No, Ese blinked. Tola held the clipboard against her body. We can stagger lunch. We cannot cancel it because the staging supplier brought the wrong finish. Ese's face went blank. Excuse me? That delay is not caused by cleaning. I did not ask who caused it. You are asking my team to absorb it. Ronke stood 5 meters away, wiping fingerprints from a brass rail. She watched Ese process the fact that Tola had said no twice in one day. Then Ese smiled. All right. Put it in writing that your team refused operational support during a live event. Tola's eyes flickered. That one landed. Ronke saw it. Ese saw it too. She had found the lever. If that's what you want, Tola said. It is. Tola reached for her phone. Send the request to the operations group so there's a record of the task change and overtime requirement. Ese's smile disappeared. Why do you need everything in writing? Because you asked me to put my refusal in writing. For the first time that day, a man from the staging company coughed to hide a laugh. Ese turned toward him. What is funny? Nothing, Ma. Then work. Tola opened the event operations chat. Please send it. Ese stared at her, then typed. The message arrived less than a minute later. Request, cleaning team to remain fully available 1:03 p.m. Due to client walkthrough and staging delay. Breaks to be taken after 3 p.m. All hands squealed for event. Readiness. Tola read it, then replied. Cleaning team started 6:45 a.m. We can stagger lunch while maintaining coverage. We cannot suspend all breaks. Please identify any specific additional task so I can confirm scope and manpower. Ese read the reply. She looked at Tola. You like bureaucracy. No, Ma. I like clarity. Ronke returned to the rail. Clarity. Another word worth keeping. At 1:40, Ronke's phone vibrated in her pocket. She ignored it until she reached the service washroom. One missed call. Niyi. Her son rarely called in the middle of a workday. She called back. He answered on the second ring. Mum, Niyi. Are you busy? Ronke looked at herself in the mirror. Cobalt tunic. Yellow gloves tucked into the waistband. A faint line of dust near one elbow. You could say that. He laughed. I wanted to confirm tomorrow. 7. Yes, Ese and I will come by 7. The name made Ronke still. She had heard it all day, but names were common enough to mean nothing. Ese? Yes, Ese Coker. Ronke's fingers tightened around the phone. On the other side of the washroom door, somebody rolled a trolley past. She said nothing. Niyi continued. I told you. The event planner. You told me her name was Ese. Yes, you did not tell me Coker. Mum, please don't start. I asked one question. You ask one question, then you ask 12. Then somehow somebody has sent you a company profile before dinner. Ronke looked down. That accusation was not invented. Years earlier, when Niyi was 28, she had asked a private investigator for a basic background report on a woman he was dating. She had called it protection. Niyi had called it invasion. The relationship between mother and son had never returned completely to where it was before. Ronke swallowed. I'm not starting anything. Good. A pause. Then Nii softened. She's nervous about meeting you. Ronke almost looked toward the door. Is she? You have that effect on people. So I hear. She knows you run a large company. I didn't go into details. Nii, please. I said nothing. She likes to make her own impression. I want you to let her. Ronke closed her eyes for 1 second. Outside, Easy's voice rose in the corridor. Who moved this table? Nii heard something through the phone. Where are you? At work. Sounds noisy. It is. Anyway, 7 tomorrow. And Mum? Yes, please no questions about revenue. Family assets, clients, anything like that. Ronke looked at the mop sink reflected in the mirror. Noted. I mean it. I heard you. They ended the call. Ronke stood still. Then the washroom door opened. Ese walked in, checking her phone. She saw Ronke at the mirror. You're on your phone? Ronke slipped it back into her pocket. My son called. During work? For less than 2 minutes. Ese shook her head. This is what I mean. Everybody wants to do personal things when there is work. She walked to the mirror and adjusted one gold earring. Her own phone rang. The screen lit up. Nii. Ronke saw the name. Ese's entire face changed. She answered. Baby, warm, soft, almost musical. Ronke turned toward the door. No, I'm okay, Ese said into the phone. Just one of those event days. You know how people can be. Ronke stopped with her hand on the handle. Tomorrow? Of course. I'm looking forward to it. A little laugh. No, I'm not afraid of your mother. Another pause. Okay, maybe small. Ronke opened the door. Behind her, Ese said, I just want her to see that I'm good for you. Ronke stepped into the corridor. For the first time since the morning began, she did not know what to do next. She could leave. She could call Nii immediately. She could tell Ese who she was and end the charade that was not meant to be a charade. She could summon the operations director and turn one humiliating workday into a corporate storm. All of those choices were available to her. That was the problem with power. People thought the hardest part was getting it. Sometimes the harder part was deciding when not to use it. Tola came around the corner, carrying the incident folder. Ronke, please help me check the East Lounge before walkthrough. Ronke looked at her, then at the folder, then back toward the washroom where Ese was still speaking gently to Nii. Coming, she said, and she stayed. Ronke waited until 2:15 before making the call. Not to Nii, to Bode Akinwal, the venue operations manager. She stepped into the loading bay office and closed the door. Bode. His voice changed the moment he heard hers. Madam Chair, don't call me that while I'm here. Yes, ma. She rubbed one thumb over the old scar near her wrist. I've discovered something personal that creates a conflict. A pause. What kind of conflict? The event planner is engaged to my son. Silence. Not shocked silence. Administrative silence. The kind that meant a man was mentally opening 7 files at once. Madam, should I stop the review? No. Should I ask her company to leave after the event? No, should I Bode? Yes, ma. If any complaint is filed concerning her conduct today, I am recused from the decision. Understood. I mean properly recused. I do not want a recommendation brought to me first. I do not want somebody guessing what outcome will please me. Compliance and venue operations handle it. Yes, ma. And do not tell staff who I am until my shift ends. He hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. What if there is another incident? If it becomes unsafe, intervene as venue manager. Not as my employee protecting me. Bode released a breath. Understood. Ronke ended the call. She stood there for another moment, listening to the low vibration of the generator through the wall. It would have been easier to stop. Easier to change clothes, sit in the upstairs office, and let everyone behave differently. because the owner was watching. But that would tell her nothing she did not already know. So she went back to work. The client walkthrough began at 2:30. Ese transformed again. The woman who had told Simi not to stand still for 30 seconds now moved beside the client with the patience of a diplomat. This way, ma'am. We adjusted the registration flow as you requested. Yes, the replacement panels are arriving. No, there will be no disruption. She was good at her job. Ronke had to admit that. Very good. She anticipated questions before the client asked them. She remembered which executive was allergic to lilies and quietly had one arrangement shifted. She spotted a cable cover that sat crooked and fixed it herself, rather than calling somebody over. Competence was not the problem. That made the problem worse. People often excused cruelty when it arrived carrying results. At 2:47, the replacement stage skin arrived. The crew rushed it inside. One of the men clipped the corner of a freestanding sign near reception. The sign tilted. Faith caught it before it fell. Careful, Ese snapped. The crewman apologized. Ese turned to Faith. Why was that sign there? Faith blinked. It has been there since morning, ma. So because it has been there since morning, it cannot move? I didn't place it. I didn't ask who placed it. Ronke was 3 steps away. She watched Faith's shoulders pull inward. Ese pointed to the sign. Move it. Faith bent to lift it. The staging man said, Madam, leave it. It's our stand. Ese ignored him. Move it now. Faith lifted one side. Ronke stepped in. 2 people. Ese closed her eyes briefly. Not you again. That base is weighted. I know what it is. Then you know one person shouldn't lift it. Ese's voice dropped. Why are you challenging everything I say? Ronke looked at Faith's hands. Because she is already holding it. The staging man came forward. I'll take it, ma. He and another crew member moved the stand. No accident happened. No one collapsed. Nothing shattered. That was the point. Good procedure was boring when it worked. Ese stared at Ronke after the men left. You enjoy embarrassing me. Ronke frowned. I'm not trying to embarrass you. You wait until people are watching, then you argue. I spoke when you told one person to lift a weighted stand. You think you know everything because you have cleaned one corridor. No, then stop behaving like it. Tola arrived with the break schedule. Ese took one look at the paper. What is this? Staggered lunch, as discussed. We have guests arriving in an hour. And we still have coverage. Ese scanned it. Why is Ronke going now? Because she is first team. Change it. Why? Ese looked at Ronke. Because I need her on reception glass. Tola checked the task board. Reception glass is done. I want it redone. Is there a mark? I want it redone. The words were quiet. Personal. Ronke heard it. Tola heard it too. She folded the paper once. Ma, I will not use work allocation to punish a staff member. The client's assistant was still within hearing distance. Ese looked past Tola and saw her. For 2 seconds, Ese's face emptied. Then the polished smile returned. Punish? Who said anything about punishment? Please, let's not dramatize simple instructions. Tola did not answer. Ese walked away. Ronke looked at Tola. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She could complain about you. She already will. Tola checked her watch. Go and eat. Ronke went. She ate jollof rice from a paper pack in the staff room and listened more than she spoke. Simi complained about her landlord. Faith had a son writing WAEC next year and was saving for lesson fees. One cleaner, Grace, had worked at Meridian House for 4 years, but remained on rotating contracts because she preferred the flexibility to care for her mother. None of them knew they were eating beside a billionaire. They did not treat Ronke differently because of that. Simi pushed a bottle of water toward her. You didn't bring drink? I have water. Take this one. It is cold. Ronke accepted it. Thank you. Tomorrow, bring your own. This place will dry your throat. Faith laughed. Especially if Madame Ese is shouting your name every 10 minutes. Simi covered her mouth. Tola entered just in time to hear. No gossip. Faith looked innocent. We are discussing operations. Even Ronke laughed then. It came out before she could stop it. Tola stared at her. So you can laugh, apparently. For a few minutes, the day became ordinary. That mattered too. People were not symbols while they waited for rich people to notice them. They had landlords, school fees, jokes, headaches, lunch preferences, bad knees, and plans for Sunday. Ronke had known that all her life. Still, there was a difference between knowing something and sitting on a plastic bench, while Faith tried to hide a boiled egg inside Simi's rice. At 3:20, the event entered its most dangerous hour. Not dangerous in the dramatic sense. Dangerous because everyone believed there was no time left. Time pressure made foolish instructions sound reasonable. The replacement stage panels were fitted. The registration desks were ready. The client wanted one last walkthrough. Then a catering cart leaked a thin trail of water near the ballroom side corridor. Tola saw it first. Close this passage for 5 minutes. She placed a yellow caution sign and called for a dry mop. Ese came around the corner with 2 client representatives. What happened? Small spill, Tola said. We're drying it. Ese looked at the caution sign. Remove that. Tola thought she had misheard. Ma? Guests are about to enter. That sign looks terrible. The floor is wet. Then dry it. We are. Ese bent to pick up the caution sign. Ronke took 1 step forward. Leave it. Ese froze. It was the first time Ronke's voice carried command. Not volume. Command. Bode, the venue manager, happened to be coming from the ballroom. He saw the wet strip immediately. What's happening? Tola answered before anyone else. Water from catering cart. We're closing the corridor for 5 minutes. Bode nodded. Good. Use the west passage. Ese stared at him. The client walkthrough is coming this way. Then they'll use west. It disrupts the route. For 5 minutes. Bode, please. We're already behind. Bode looked at the floor. We are not sending guests across wet marble because the route is prettier. One client representative said quietly, West is fine. The matter was finished. But Ese did not experience it as finished. She experienced it as defeat. Her mouth tightened. She looked at Ronke. You. Ronke said nothing. You have been undermining me since morning. Bode's eyes moved between them. Ese. No, let me speak. Every instruction, this woman has something to say. Ronke looked at the water. I said the sign should stay. Exactly, as if you are in charge. I am not. Then behave like it. The 2 client representatives had gone quiet. Bode stepped in. This is not the place. Ese laughed without humor. You're right. It is not, she pointed at Ronke. When this event is over, I want her name removed from any team assigned to my company. I will not work with somebody who cannot follow instruction. Tola answered. That is not a decision you can make here. Ese turned on her. Then I will make it with whoever signs your contract. Bode's face gave nothing away. Ronke knew why. He was trying very hard not to look at the woman who signed his own executive contract. Ronke met his eyes for half a second. Do nothing. He understood. Tola put the caution sign back exactly where it had been. Corridor closed, she said. Ese walked away. 5 minutes later, the floor was dry. No guest noticed. The event opened at 4. By 4:15, the ballroom was full of people who would never know that a battle had taken place over a yellow plastic sign. Ese moved through them brilliantly. She greeted executives, fixed a microphone issue, replaced a missing name card before the guest noticed, redirected a waiter when a tray blocked the camera line. Ronke watched from the back, while polishing one final glass panel. Competent, focused, driven, and dangerous to people who could not push back. The contradiction bothered Ronke more than a simple villain would have. At 5:10, Niyi called Ese. Ronke did not hear the conversation this time. She only saw Ese step into the side corridor, press one finger against her temple, and answer with a smile. Later, as Ronke emptied a bin near reception, she saw Ese alone at a high table. The ballroom noise covered everything around her. Ese opened a banking app. Her shoulders stiffened. She moved money from one account to another, then checked an email marked overdue. Then another from a prospective corporate client. The subject line read, "Final decision after tomorrow's review." Ronke looked away. That was private. But she had seen enough to understand one thing. Ese was not floating through life on money. She was fighting for something. What exactly? Ronke did not yet know. A few minutes later, Ese found a caterer using the wrong service entrance. She corrected him sharply, then saw Simi nearby. "Why is that bin still here?" Simi looked confused. "It was just brought back, ma." "I don't care, move it." There it was again. Pressure came in from above. Ese sent it downward, always downward. At 6, the first half of the event had gone well. The client was pleased. That should have relaxed Ese. Instead, she became more severe. Success had not softened her. It had convinced her that her methods worked. When Faith asked Tola whether the team scheduled to leave at 6:30 could sign out on time, Ese overheard. "Leave?" Tola said. "Their shift ends at 6:30. We still have guests. Night team is here. I need continuity. You have coverage." Ese rubbed her forehead. "Can they stay 1 hour?" Tola looked at the women. "If they agree and overtime is approved." Ese made a frustrated sound. "Everything is money, money, money." Faith looked at the floor. Ronke's head turned slowly. Ese saw it. "What?" Ronke wiped her hands on a cloth. "Nothing. No, say it. You always have something to say." Ronke looked at Faith, then at Ese. "If you need 1 more hour of somebody's time, it is not unreasonable for that hour to be paid." Ese laughed. "You people behave as if business owners are printing money in the back office." Ronke almost said, "I am a business owner." Instead, she asked, "If the client requested 1 more hour from you without paying, would you call it reasonable?" Ese stopped. The question was too clean. Tola looked away to hide her expression. Ese stepped closer. "You know what? I don't like your attitude. That has become clear. And I don't know who told you that being older means you can lecture me." "No one. Good. Then stop." She turned to Tola. "Send me the overtime rate." Tola nodded. Ese walked off. Simi whispered, "Auntie Ronke, one day you will enter trouble." Ronke looked at her. "Maybe." Tola murmured, "At least send your CV before then." Ronke smiled. At 7:30, her shadow shift officially ended. She removed the yellow gloves, washed her hands, and folded them into the top of her canvas tote. Tola was completing sign-out sheets. "First day survived," she said. "Barely. You did well. Thank you." Tola glanced at her. "You really used to do this?" "Yes. Where?" "Several places." "That is a very suspicious answer." Ronke smiled. Tola tore a copy from a form. "I'm filing today's issues. About Ese? About everyone. Will you?" Tola looked offended. "I said I will." Ronke nodded. "You did." She took her bag and walked to the service exit. Outside the gate, 2 blocks away, a dark SUV waited. Her driver, Joseph, opened the rear door. He looked at the cobalt uniform. Then at Ronke. He had worked for her 11 years and had learned when not to ask questions. Today he failed. "How was work, ma?" Ronke got in. "Educational." Joseph shut the door. As the vehicle pulled into evening traffic, Ronke looked back at Meridian House through the glass. Inside, Ese Coker was still running an event. Tomorrow evening, the same woman would walk into Ronke's home wearing a different face, and Ronke would have to decide which face mattered more. Ronke got home at 8:45. Her house in Ikoyi was quiet in the way. Large houses often were after staff had gone off duty. Not empty, quiet. The air conditioning hummed. Somewhere upstairs, a door closed. From the kitchen came the smell of ginger and grilled fish. She walked straight past the sitting room and into the small study beside the dining area. On the shelf above her desk sat a framed photograph of Niyi at 12 years old, holding a model bridge made from ice cream sticks. He had been furious that day because one side leaned. Ronke had told him nobody would notice. He had answered, "I will notice, even then." She sat down and called him. He picked up immediately. "Mum? Yes. You sound tired. I am. Long day? Very." She heard traffic on his side. "Are you driving?" Hands free. "Good." A pause. Then Ronke asked, "The woman you are bringing tomorrow, her full name is Ese Coker?" The line went silent for half a beat. "Yes, Coker." "Yes, Mum. Why?" Ronke looked at the photo. "I wanted to confirm." "Confirm what?" "Her name. Mum. I'm not investigating her. You see why I don't tell you things early. You ask a question in that voice, and suddenly I feel like I'm in a board meeting." Ronke leaned back. "What voice?" "That one." She almost smiled. "Nee, I am asking one question." And I answered. "Good." Another pause. He softened first. "She's under pressure today. Big event. She has been working on it for weeks." "I see." "You don't see. That's the point." Ronke's eyebrows rose. "Excuse me?" Nee laughed. "I mean, you haven't met her?" "No, I have not. So please meet her before forming anything in your head." Ronke looked at the cobalt sleeve still covering her arm. She had not changed. "Fair enough," she said. "Thank you. 7 tomorrow." 7. They ended the call. Ronke remained in the study. She could have told him. The sentence was simple. "I met her today." She chose not to say it. At first, she told herself it was because Niyi deserved to see Ese without Ronke poisoning the room before dinner. That was partly true. The other part was less comfortable. Ronke did not want him to think she had arranged this. Their old argument returned with embarrassing ease. It had been 6 years earlier. Niyi had been dating a woman named Lara for 8 months. Ronke had heard rumors that Lara's family business was under investigation for financial irregularities. Instead of asking Niyi what he knew, Ronke had asked her security advisor to check quietly. The check produced a report. The report found nothing criminal. Niyi found the report anyway. He had come to Ronke's office and placed it on her desk. "You ran a background check on somebody I love. I protected you. You inspected my life. I had reason. You always have reason." He had left before she could win the argument. That had been the problem. Ronke had spent years winning arguments and losing ground with her son. Lara and Niyi eventually ended for reasons that had nothing to do with Ronke. But the line between mother and grown man had been redrawn. Niyi stopped bringing people home early, stopped discussing relationships until they were serious, stopped giving Ronke enough information to interfere. She had called it stubbornness. Later, privately, she called it consequence. Now, sitting in the quiet study, Ronke knew she was in dangerous territory again. If she spoke too soon, Niyi might hear control instead of concern. If she said nothing, he might walk toward marriage without seeing what she had seen. Neither choice felt clean. Her phone buzzed. A message from Bode. Incident report submitted by cleaning supervisor and 2 staff. Compliance copied. As instructed, I have not included you in decision chain. Ronke read it twice. She replied with 1 word. Good. Then another message arrived. From Niyi. Don't intimidate her tomorrow, I beg. Ronke stared at it. A laugh escaped her. She typed, I will try to survive meeting your fiancé. He sent a laughing emoji. Ronke put the phone down. Madam? Her housekeeper, Mercy, stood at the study door. Dinner is ready. I'm coming. Mercy's looked at the uniform. You went there like this? Ronke nodded. Mercy shook her head slowly. Rich people like suffering. Ronke laughed again. Mercy, I'm only saying. You are saying plenty. Mercy grinned and left. Ronke went upstairs to shower. Before dropping the cobalt tunic into the laundry basket, she held it for a second. There was a small grey mark near the hem, marble dust. She rubbed it with her thumb, then let the tunic fall. Across Lagos, Ese Coker was still working. Her event ended at 10. The client congratulated her. The managing director shook her hand and said, "Excellent recovery on the staging issue." Ese smiled. "Thank you, sir." She took photographs with the event team. She posed beside the product display. She sent one picture to Niyi with the caption, "We survived," he replied. "Never doubted you." That made her smile for real. Then Tola approached. The ballroom was half empty now. Caterers were clearing. Guests had moved toward the exit. Ma. Ese turned. "Yes? We need to confirm the overtime for Faith and Grace. 1 hour each." Ese's smile vanished. "Send it to accounts. I need your approval on the event extension form. Tomorrow. The venue asks us to close it before sign-out." Ese looked at the paper. "Fine." She signed. Tola did not move. "What else?" Ese asked. "I also filed the incident report from today." Ese stared at her. "What incident? The break instruction, the out-of-scope lifting requests, the corridor issue, and the request to remove Ronke from future teams." Ese laughed once. "You people actually filed a report because I asked you to work?" "No, Ma." "Then what?" "I wrote what happened. Compliance will decide what it means." Ese's jaw tightened. "Did that woman put you up to this?" "Which woman?" "The new cleaner." "Ronke, yes, Ronke. Since she came here, everybody suddenly has courage." Tola's expression changed. Not fear, offense. "I have worked here 3 years. So? I don't need a new cleaner to tell me when to write a report." Ese crossed her arms. "You know my company brings business here. I know, and you know one bad report can affect whether I use your venue again." Tola looked at her for a long moment. Then she said, "That sentence will also go into the file if you want." Ese's lips parted. Tola waited. Ese looked away first. "Good night." "Good night, Ma." Tola left. Ese stood alone near the edge of the ballroom. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was not Niyi. It was an email from Meridian House Operations. Subject: Vendor conduct review. Acknowledgement of incent report. Ese opened it. Her eyes moved quickly across the screen. No suspension yet. No accusation. Just confirmation that a review had been opened, and that her company might be asked to provide records or clarification. She swore under her breath. A member of her own staff, a young coordinator named Zara, approached with a laptop bag. "Boss, should I send tomorrow's client deck tonight or first thing morning?" "Tonight." "Okay." Zara hesitated. "What?" Ese asked. "Nothing." "Say it." Zara shifted the bag on her shoulder. "Today was a lot." Ese looked at her. "A lot how?" "Just stressful. We delivered." "Yes, so?" Zara looked toward the service corridor. "Nothing." "Then go home." Zara nodded. Ese watched her leave. For a moment, something uncomfortable moved across her face. Then her phone rang. Her bank relationship manager. That discomfort disappeared under a bigger one. She answered immediately. "Yes, hello." The conversation lasted 6 minutes. By the end, Ese was sitting down. The short-term facility she had expected for her agency's expansion would not be approved that week. The bank wanted updated receivables. 2 clients still owed her. One supplier wanted payment by Friday, and the corporate account she was chasing would make the difference between expanding with confidence and spending another 3 months moving money around like cups on a table. She pressed 2 fingers between her eyes. When Niyi called at 11:15, she almost did not answer. Then she saw his name and picked up. "Hey, You sound finished. I am. How did it go? Client loved it. I knew they would. Ese smiled weakly. Your confidence is expensive. I'll invoice you, she laughed. For a few seconds, the day loosened around her. Then Nii asked, Still good for tomorrow? Yes. You sure? I'm not missing meeting your mother because one venue decided to create drama. What drama? Ese looked at the email on her phone. Nothing serious. Some cleaning staff complained because I pushed them hard today. Nii was quiet. How hard? S frowned. What does that mean? Just asking. I was running an event, Nii. Everybody was stressed. Nobody died. He did not laugh. Ese sat straighter. Please don't start judging me from one sentence. I'm not. You are. I asked a question. She rubbed her forehead. Sorry. I'm tired. Go home. I am going. Eat something. Yes, Daddy. That sounded disrespectful. She laughed again. This time he joined her. By the time they hung up, Ese had decided the complaint was nonsense. She had delivered a successful event. The client was happy. Workers had been paid. Nobody was injured. People were too sensitive. That explanation felt good enough to sleep beside. The next morning, it began to crack. At 9:14, Zara walked into Ese's office in Lekki, holding a printed email. Boss. What? Meridian House asked for our written response by tomorrow afternoon. Ese looked up from her laptop. I saw it. They also asked for yesterday's task instructions and staffing messages. I saw it. Zara did not leave. Ese's eyes narrowed. What? Zara sat down slowly. I need to ask you something before I send anything. Ask. Do you want the full WhatsApp export or only the operations group? The operations group. They asked for relevant messages. So, send relevant messages. Zara looked at her. There was a pause. Then Ese understood what was inside that pause. You think I'm hiding something? No. That was not convincing. Zara looked down. Ese closed her laptop. What exactly is your problem? Zara inhaled. Yesterday, when you told Tola that the cleaners should work through lunch, I sent you a private message saying their shift started before 7. I remember. And you replied? Then they should be used to being tired. Ese said nothing. Zara continued, carefully now. If they ask for relevant messages, that may be relevant. Ese's mouth hardened. It was a joke. Zara did not answer. It was a joke, Ese repeated. Okay, don't say okay like that. I don't know how you want me to say it. Ese stared at her. Zara stood. I'll export the thread. Zara. She stopped. Ese wanted to tell her not to include the private messages. The sentence came all the way to her tongue, then stopped. Because saying it out loud would make the thing look exactly like what it was. Send what they asked for, Ese said. Zara nodded and left. Ese reopened her laptop. For 10 minutes, she read the same email without understanding it. At 10:30, another message arrived, from Tola. It was polite. Good morning, Ma. Please confirm that the additional 2 overtime hours for yesterday have been accepted by your accounts team. Thank you. Ese stared at the screen. She typed. This matter has become unnecessarily hostile. Deleted it. Typed. Please stop contacting me directly. Deleted that too. Finally, confirmed. Accounts will process. She sent it. Then, almost immediately, she called Zara. Yes, boss. Did you send the export? Not yet. Include everything they requested. Okay. Ese ended the call. It was a small choice. Not noble, not transformative, just small. But it was the first choice she made that week, which did not push pressure downward. By noon, she had another problem. Meridian House paused her agency's application for preferred vendor status pending review. Not her ability to work existing bookings. Not her entire business. Just the preferred pool she had been trying to enter for 8 months. Ese read the email 3 times. Then she called Bode. He answered. Good afternoon, Ese. Bode. What is this preferred vendor pause? It's standard during conduct review. Standard according to who? Venue policy. You know yesterday's event was successful. Yes. The client praised us. Yes. So why is staff complaint being treated as if we failed? Because client satisfaction and vendor conduct are separate questions. Ese stood from her chair. Bode, be serious. One new cleaner was rude to me from morning, and somehow by night I have a complaint. The complaint was filed by Tola and 2 team members. That woman influenced them. Which woman? The new cleaner, Ronke. Bode's pause was dangerous. Ese mistook it for agreement. I don't know who she thinks she is. Bode rubbed a hand over his face on the other end of the line. Ese, the review will deal with records, not personality. Submit your response. I want Ronke removed from any team assigned to my company. I can't do that based on what I have. You can't or you won't? Both. Ese laughed bitterly. Fine. I'll escalate. To who? The property owners, if I have to. Bode closed his eyes. Submit your response, Ese. He ended the call. Ese stared at her phone. That woman does not know who she is dealing with, she said aloud. Zara, standing at the open office door, heard her. Ese looked up. What? Zara shook her head. Nothing. Then why are you standing there? You have your fitting at 2:30. Ese looked at the clock. She had forgotten. Tonight she was meeting Niyi's mother. Suddenly the review felt smaller, at least for a few hours. She closed her laptop. Tell accounts to pay the cleaners overtime today. Zara nodded. And send the full export. All of it? All relevant messages. Don't edit around me. Zara's eyebrows lifted slightly. Ese saw it. Go. Zara went. Ese stood by the window after she left. Below, Lekki traffic crawled. Her reflection floated faintly over the glass. She thought about Ronke, the cleaner's calm voice. That irritating way she refused to be frightened. Ese still believed the woman had been disrespectful. But something else bothered her now. Ronke had never actually insulted her. Not once. Ese pushed the thought away. She had a family dinner to prepare for. At 7:12 that evening, Niyi Adeyemi drove through the gates of his mother's home with Ese beside him. You're late, he said, by 12 minutes. My mother counts. Ese looked at the house ahead. It was large but not ridiculous. Cream walls, tall windows, warm light behind drawn curtains, no fountains, no line of exotic cars, no gold gates. Still, the place had the quiet confidence of money that did not need to explain itself. Ese checked her lipstick in the mirror. Do I look nervous? Yes. She turned to him. Traitor, you asked. He reached across and squeezed her hand. Relax. She's not a dragon. You say that because she gave birth to you. She also paid my school fees. I have evidence. Ese laughed. It helped. She wore a deep emerald wrap dress tonight, not the ruby red from Meridian House. Her hair was swept into a neat, low bun. She had changed earrings twice before leaving home. Niyi stepped out first. He walked around and opened her door. You don't have to perform gentleman, Ese said. I'm not performing. Good answer. They walked to the entrance. Inside, Mercy greeted them. Good evening. Good evening, Ma, Ese said warmly. Niyi noticed. He always noticed manners. Mercy smiled. Madam is in the sitting room. Ese whispered as they followed. She has staff calling her Madam. You didn't mention that. Niyi frowned. Mercy has worked with us for years. You know what I mean. No, actually. Ese waved it away. Then they entered the sitting room. Ronke stood by a side table, arranging nothing in particular. She wore a pale ivory blouse and tailored cobalt trousers. No cleaner's tunic, no gloves, no work shoes. Her salt and pepper hair was the same. Her face was the same. Ese stopped. The room kept going without her. A clock ticked. A ceiling fan turned slowly, though the air conditioning was on. Somewhere in the kitchen, a plate touched another plate. Niyi smiled. Mum. Ronke looked at him first, then at Ese. Nii stepped aside. Ese, this is my mother, Ronke Balogun. Ese did not breathe. Her eyes moved over Ronke's face as if searching for another woman underneath it. Ronke gave her no help. We have met, she said. Nii's smile vanished. You have? Ese's mouth opened. Nothing came. Then, finally, oh my God. Ronke remained still. Ese's hand went to her chest. Yesterday, yes. At Meridian House. Yes. Nii looked between them. What happened yesterday? Ese turned to him too quickly. Nii, I didn't know. Ronke's eyes sharpened. Nii frowned. Know what? Ese looked back at Ronke. I'm so sorry. I swear I didn't know who you were. Ronke tilted her head. The question came quietly. Would knowing who I was have changed what you did? Ese froze, and this time there was nowhere in the room to send the pressure. Nii looked at Ese for several seconds. Not angry yet. That would have been easier. Anger gives people something to fight. His face was worse than anger. It was calculation. He was putting pieces together. What did you do? He asked. Ese shook her head quickly. It wasn't like that. Ronke spoke before Nii could. Let her answer. Ese looked at Ronke. For the first time since she entered the house, she seemed to remember that this woman had heard her voice when it was not softened for family. She swallowed. There was a difficult event yesterday. Nii's eyes narrowed. The one you told me about. Yes. And Mum was there. Ronke nodded. I was working with the cleaning team. Nii stared at her now. You were what? That can wait. No. It cannot completely wait. You were working as a cleaner at Ese's event? For an operations review. You arranged this? No. His jaw tightened anyway. Ronke saw it. Old history had entered the room before Ese ever did. I did not know Ese would be there, Ronke said. I did not know she was your Ese until afternoon. Nii looked at Ese. And what happened before she knew? Ese stepped forward. Nii, please, we can sit down. No answer. Mercy appeared at the dining room entrance, took one look at the room, and quietly disappeared again. Ese rubbed her palms together. I was under pressure. The staging was wrong. We had client walkthrough. Some workers were pushing back on basic instructions. Ronke's expression did not move. Nii noticed. What kind of instructions? It was work. That is not an answer. Ese's voice sharpened. Why are you questioning me like this? Because 30 seconds ago you apologized for not knowing who my mother was. Ese closed her mouth. Nii continued. You did not say, I'm sorry for what I did. You said, I didn't know who you were. That is a different sentence. Ese turned toward Ronke. I said, I'm sorry. To me, Ronke said. Ese blinked. Who else should I? She stopped. Nii heard the unfinished sentence. So there were others. Ese pressed her lips together. Ronke walked to a chair and sat. You both came here for dinner, she said. You should sit. Nobody moved. Ronke looked at Nii. And before this becomes a courtroom, I owe you something too. I should have told you last night that I met her. Nii looked at his mother. Yes, I did not. Because I was afraid you would think I had interfered again. You still should have told me. Yes. Ese looked between them. The admission threw her off balance. She had expected Ronke to use the room like a throne. Instead, Ronke had admitted fault in the first 5 minutes. Ese did not know how to defend against that. Nii finally sat. Ese remained standing. He looked up at her. Please sit. She sat opposite him. Ronke stayed between them, not physically, but somehow the room had arranged itself that way. Nii asked, Was there a complaint? Ese's eyes flicked toward Ronke. Yes, against you? Against my company. It's ridiculous. Ronke said nothing. Nii asked, Who filed it? The supervisor and 2 cleaners, and my mother. Ese hesitated. I thought she influenced them. Ronke shook her head. I did not file it. Ese looked at her. I didn't know that. I also recused myself from the review yesterday afternoon before the event ended. Ese stared. Ni said, "Why?" "Because once I knew who she was, any decision involving her company could affect you." Ese's face changed again. "You recused yourself?" "Yes." "So the preferred vendor pause was not my decision." Ese looked down. The room went quiet. Her most comfortable explanation had been removed. She could no longer tell herself that an insulted billionaire had reached down from above to punish her. The complaint existed without Ronke. The workers had spoken without Ronke. The process had moved without Ronke. Nii leaned forward. "What exactly did you say to her?" Ese looked at him. "Nii, what did you say?" "I told her to clean something," Ronke said. "That part was reasonable." Ese looked at her quickly. Ronke continued. "The mark needed cleaning." Nii waited. Ese's shoulders dropped a little. "I told her nobody was paying her to think." Nii's eyes closed for 1 second. Ese rushed on. "I was angry. She kept arguing about procedure." "She was correct about the procedure," Ronke said. Ese's head snapped toward her. "You don't have to make everything sound." She stopped again. Ronke's eyebrows rose. Ese looked away. Nii said, "What else?" Ese said nothing. Ronke did not answer for her. That silence forced Ese to choose. She picked at one fingernail. "I asked a cleaner to move a weighted sign." "One person?" Ronke asked. Ese nodded. "I didn't know how heavy it was." "The staging man told you it was theirs," Ronke said. Ese's face hardened. "I said I was under pressure." Nii looked at her. "And the brakes?" Ese stared. "How do you know about brakes?" "You mentioned cleaning staff complained. Mum mentioned others." "I'm asking." Ese scaled. "I tried to delay lunch because we were behind." "Did you have authority to do that?" "No," the word came out small. "Did they tell you no?" "Yes." "And then?" "I got angry." Ronke looked at the floor. Nii was quiet for a long time. Ese leaned toward him. "You've seen me work. You know what my business means to me." "I know. You know how hard I've worked to get into those rooms. Do you know what it takes for people to take a young event planner seriously when you don't come from one of those old families? When one mistake can make a client call somebody else forever." Nii nodded slowly. "I know you work hard. Then understand what yesterday was." "I'm trying to. My bank facility is delayed. Suppliers are on my neck. One major client is deciding whether to give us a 12-month contract. That event had to work. It did work. Because I pushed." The sentence came with pride. Then Ese heard it herself. Ronke looked at her. "Did it work because you pushed?" she asked. "Or did it work because other people absorbed what you pushed onto them?" Ese's jaw tightened. "There. That. You make it sound as if I was abusing people." Ronke's voice stayed level. "I have not used that word, but that is what you mean. What do you mean?" Ese stopped. Ronke waited. Nii watched both women. Ese looked at him. "I'm not a bad person." Nii rubbed a thumb against his palm. "I didn't ask if you were. You're looking at me like I am. I'm looking at you like I've just learned something I did not know." Tears gathered in Ese's eyes. She blinked hard. "I love you." Nii's face changed at that. He loved her too. That was obvious. Love did not leave the room simply because another truth entered it. That would have made everything easier as well. He leaned back. "I love you. That is why this matters." Ese's voice broke. "So one bad day can cancel everything?" "No, then what?" Nii looked toward his mother, then back at Ese. "One bad day can show something. Not everything, but something." Ese shook her head. "You don't know what those people were like." Ronke's eyes sharpened. "Those people?" Ese flinched. "I didn't mean." "You did. Nobody respects what I carry. The client wants perfection. Suppliers bring excuses. Staff want to leave exactly when their shift ends. Everybody protects themselves, and I'm the one standing in front when it fails." Ronke leaned forward. "That is management." Ese stared. Ronke continued. If you take the fee and the authority, you also take the pressure. You do not get to pass the pressure downward until it reaches somebody too frightened to refuse you. Ese wiped under one eye. So you were judging me all day? No, that is exactly what you were doing. I went there to judge a system, and you found me. Yes, the plainness of it made Ese sit back. Nii looked at Ronke. Why were you there in the first place? She told him. Not everything. Enough. The 11 complaints, the closed files, the pattern of external vendors pushing cleaners outside scope, her decision to shadow one shift because reports had become too clean. Nii listened. When she finished, he asked, You didn't know Easy's company was booked? No. Can you prove that? Ronke looked at him. The question hurt. He saw it. Still, he did not withdraw it. Ronke nodded. The compliance request predates yesterday by 6 weeks. My shift assignment was made before you even gave me Easy's surname. Nii exhaled. Okay, Ronke said. You were right to ask. Ese looked at him. You thought she arranged it? I needed to know. Ese laughed weakly. So everybody gets suspicion except me. No, Nii said. Everybody gets questions. Dinner remained untouched in the next room. Eventually, Mercy sent a message to Ronke, asking whether she should keep the fish warm. Ronke replied yes. No one moved toward the table. Nii turned to Ese. I need to ask you one more thing. Ese wiped her face. What? When you thought she was just a cleaner, what did you believe she deserved from you? Ese stared at him. That is not fair. Why? Because you're asking it like there is one correct answer. There is. She looked away. Nii's voice dropped. Basic respect. Ese closed her eyes. He continued. Not because she is my mother. Not because she owns anything. Because she is a person doing work. Ese said nothing. Nii stood. Her head came up. Where are you going? I need air. Nii, please. He walked toward the terrace doors. Ese followed him 2 steps. Nii. He stopped, but did not turn. She said, Please don't throw us away tonight. His hand stayed on the door handle. I'm not deciding tonight, Ese breathed out. Then he added, But we are not going ahead with the wedding as planned. Her face drained. What? We pause it. No, he turned. Ese, no. You cannot make that decision after one conversation. I can make the decision not to marry next month while I'm not sure. We sent invitations. I know. Deposits. I know my family. I know. She stared at him. You're humiliating me because your mother was humiliated. Nii's face tightened. No, that is exactly what this is. If I wanted to humiliate you, I would do this in front of everybody. I'm doing it here because I don't want marriage to become punishment for either of us. Ese shook her head violently. You don't mean this. I do. She looked at Ronke. You're happy now. Ronke's expression hardened for the first time that evening. No. Your son is cancelling his wedding because of me. You think I cannot see what you wanted? Ronke stood. I wanted my son to choose his own life. That is why I have not told him what decision to make. Ese laughed bitterly. You didn't need to. You brought the evidence to his sitting room. I brought nothing. You walked in and apologized for not knowing who I was. Ese flinched as if the sentence had physical weight. Ronke lowered her voice. If you want to be angry with me, be angry. But do not turn your own words into my conspiracy. Ese looked at Nii. He did not rescue her from the silence. That was when she knew the night had changed something permanent. She picked up her handbag. I'm leaving. Nii moved toward her. I'll drive you. No, Ese. I said no. The word came out rough. Ronke heard Simi's voice from the staff room. No is enough. Nii stopped. Ese walked to the entrance. At the door she turned once. Her eyes were wet, her shoulders were stiff. She looked at Ronke. I am sorry for the way I spoke to you. Ronke waited. Ese swallowed. And the others. It was not a good apology. Not yet. but it was the first time she had remembered them without being prompted. Then she left. The door closed. Nii stood with both hands on his hips. Ronke did not speak. He turned to her. "You should have told me." "I know. I mean last night." Immediately. "I know. You cannot keep deciding what information I'm ready for." Ronke nodded. "I know." He frowned. "Stop agreeing with me." She almost smiled. "I don't know what response you prefer. I prefer you to understand." "I do." He rubbed his face. "No. You understand the sentence. I need you to understand why I hid her from you." Ronke's smile disappeared. Nii sat again. "You think I kept you at a distance because I'm secretive. I kept you at a distance because every time I brought somebody close, you treated it like risk assessment." Ronke sat opposite him. "I was afraid you would be used because of money. I know. That fear was not imaginary. I know, then, but you made it impossible for me to know whether you disliked somebody because of evidence or because you were afraid." Ronke looked down at her hands. Nii continued. "So I solved it badly. I told you less. I gave you fewer names. I separated my life from the family businesses. And now I'm sitting here discovering that the woman I planned to marry treated a cleaner badly, and that cleaner happened to be you." He laughed once without humor. "Do you know how absurd that sounds? Yes, you could not write it and expect people to believe it." Ronke looked up. "Yet here we are." He shook his head. For the first time all evening, they both almost laughed. The laugh did not fully arrive. Nii looked toward the door. "I love her." Ronke's chest tightened. She answered carefully. "I know. Do you?" "Yes. What do you think I should do?" Ronke took her time, then said, "I think you should stop asking me that question." Nii looked at her. She continued, "I spent too many years answering it when you did not ask. I will not start again tonight." His eyes softened slightly. "That is inconveniently mature. It is exhausting." He leaned back. Ronke said, "I can tell you what I saw. I can tell you what I think it means. But whether it disqualifies her from being your wife is yours." Nii nodded. "What did you see?" Ronke told him. "Not the insults first. The pattern. The way Easy's voice changed depending on who stood in front of her. The planter. The break. The corridor sign. The overtime. The attempt to remove Ronke from future shifts. And also the other things. Ease remembering the client's tea. Ease moving lilies because of an allergy. Ease fixing a cable cover herself. Ease keeping the event together when the staging supplier failed." Nii looked surprised. "You're defending her?" "No. It sounds like it. I'm refusing to make her simple because simple would make your decision easier." He looked down. Ronke said, "She is competent. She is hard-working. She is under real financial pressure. And when pressure comes, she sends it toward people with less power." Nii rubbed his thumb across his palm again. That habit had belonged to his father. Ronke still noticed it every time. "Can people change that?" he asked. "People can change many things. That is not an answer." "No, it isn't." He looked at her. Ronke held his gaze. "Change is not a promise somebody makes because they are afraid to lose you. It is what they keep doing after they have already lost the advantage." Nii looked toward the terrace. Neither spoke for a while. Eventually, Mercy appeared again. "Madam, should I serve?" Ronke looked at her son. Nii nodded. "Yes," Ronke said. Mercy returned to the dining room. They ate the grilled fish cold anyway. The next morning, the vendor review began without Ronke. Bode chaired the internal session with a compliance manager named Daniel George and an independent procurement representative from another property in the group. Tola attended for 20 minutes. So did Simi and Faith, separately. Nobody was asked whether Ease was a good person. They were asked what happened. What instruction was given? Who had authority? Was the task within scope? Was the request written down? Was there a safety concern? Who heard it? What happened next? Boring questions. Useful questions. Tola produced the event operations messages. The team's start time was documented. The lunch delay request was documented. The overtime extension was documented. The instruction to remove Ronke from future teams was not in writing, but 4 people had heard it. Compliance noted it as witness-supported, not proven beyond dispute. That distinction mattered. Zara sent Ese's response package by 3 that afternoon. It included the operations group export. It also included the private message. Then they should be used to being tired. Ese had written a note beside it in her response. This was an inappropriate attempt at humor during a stressful event. I accept that it reflected poorly on my attitude toward the cleaning team. Zara read that sentence before sending. She looked through the glass wall into Ese's office. Ese was sitting very still. For once, she was not on the phone, not moving money, not chasing a vendor, not correcting anybody, just sitting. Zara knocked. Sent. Ese nodded. Thank you. Zara turned to go. Zara. Yes. Was I that bad yesterday? The question surprised both of them. Zara looked at the floor. Ese almost withdrew it, then said, Tell me. Zara exhaled. Yesterday was not the first time. Ese's face went still. Zara continued before courage left. When clients delay approval, you shout at us. When suppliers make mistakes, you shout at us. When staff ask for overtime, you say, everybody is counting your money. When we tell you something cannot be done, you hear laziness. Ese looked away. Zara's voice became softer. You are good at this work. Very good. That is why we stayed. But sometimes, the closer an event gets, the less we feel like people around you. Ese's fingers tightened on the edge of her desk. Why didn't you tell me? Zara gave a small, tired laugh. We did. Ese looked at her. Not like this. No, not like this. Why? Zara met her eyes. Because you are our boss. There was no accusation in the sentence. That made it worse. Ese leaned back. Zara left. The office door clicked shut. Ese sat there for a long time. Then she opened her chat history and searched her own name. Not because anybody told her to. Because she wanted to see herself where she had not been looking. The messages were ugly in a very ordinary way. Need this tonight. No excuses. Why is everybody moving like they have no bills? I cannot babysit grown adults. If this supplier embarrasses me, all of you will hear it. Who approved this nonsense? Fix it before I get there. No single message was monstrous. Together, they sounded like a workplace where everyone waited for the next blast. Ese closed the laptop. She put both palms flat on the desk. For once, there was nobody beneath her to blame. The vendor decision came 4 days later. Ese read it alone. Her agency was suspended from Meridian House's preferred vendor pool for 6 months. Existing confirmed bookings could proceed under additional supervision. The company would need to complete corrective management actions before reconsideration. There was no fine from Ronke, no threat, no blacklist across Lagos, no dramatic call to destroy her business, just a consequence tied to the place where the conduct happened. The letter also required settlement of any outstanding labor extension claims connected to the event. Those had already been paid. Ese stared at the screen for nearly a minute. Then she called Bode. He answered. I received it. I expected you would. 6 months is excessive. It is reviewable at the end of the period. We delivered a successful event. Yes. You keep saying that as if it doesn't matter. It matters. Then why am I being punished? Bode was quiet for a moment. Because successful delivery is not permission to mistreat the people helping you deliver it. Ese gripped the phone. Did Ronke approve this? No. Did she see the recommendation? Not before approval. How do I know that? You don't have to trust me. The recusal is documented. Ese looked at the email again. There was an attachment, decision log, names, dates. Ronke's name was not among the approvers. Ese swallowed. Bode said you can submit an appeal if there is factual error. Is there? That is for you to decide. Ese did not answer. She ended the call. For the first time since the whole thing began, she wanted there to be a villain. Ronke would have been convenient. A billionaire mother protecting her son. A powerful woman taking revenge on a future daughter-in-law. Ese could have lived inside that story. She could have told friends, could have told clients, could have told herself. But the decision log sat on her screen and refused to cooperate. The workers had filed the complaint. The record supported them. The review had happened without Ronke. The consequence belonged to Ese. Her phone rang. The prospective corporate client. She answered immediately. The call lasted 11 minutes. They did not give her the 12-month contract, not because of Meridian House. They had chosen a larger agency with more regional coverage. Ese thanked them politely. When the call ended, she placed the phone face down. Then she laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because for 3 weeks she had treated that contract like the one door standing between her and disaster. Now it was gone, and the office was still there. Zara was still in the next room. 2 smaller clients still owed invoices. Suppliers still needed payment. Nothing had exploded. The fear had been real. The catastrophe she built around it had not been. A knock came on the door. Zara entered. Boss, Chuka, from production says the printer deposit has to go today. Ese nodded. Pay half. Call him. Agree the balance date in writing. Zara blinked. Okay. And Zara? Yes? Next event, nobody works beyond scheduled hours unless we approve overtime first. Zara stared. Ese frowned. What? Nothing. You people like saying nothing. A small smile appeared on Zara's face. Ese caught herself, then she smiled too. Go. Zara left. The changes did not arrive like redemption in a film. Ese did not wake the next morning patient. She still snapped at a supplier 2 weeks later. Then called him back and apologized without adding, but you also. That second part was harder than the first. She still hated delays, still checked the clock too often, still had to stop herself from sending messages after midnight, because an idea had entered her head and suddenly felt urgent to everybody. Her agency got smaller before it became healthier. She postponed hiring 3 people, moved out of a more expensive shared office suite and into a plain second-floor space, where the air conditioning worked only when the landlord's generator behaved. She sold a company SUV that was mostly useful for photographs and used the money to clear 2 supplier balances. Nobody applauded. There was no montage. There were receipts. One Friday morning, Zara placed a letter on Ese's desk. Ese looked at the envelope. What is this? My resignation. Ese stared at her. No. Zara gave a sad smile. It is not a question, boss. Ese leaned back. Why? I got another job, more money. Yes. How much? Zara laughed. You are still you. Ese almost asked again, then stopped. Okay, fair. Zara sat down. I was already interviewing before Meridian House. Ese's face changed. Before? Yes. How long? 2 months. Ese looked at the resignation letter again. That hurt differently. Meridian House had not created the problem. Ronke had not created the problem. The problem had been present while Ese was still winning events and smiling for photographs. Why did you stay? She asked. I like the work. That is not enough. No. Zara folded her hands. And I like you when you are not behaving like every delay is a personal attack. Ese laughed despite herself. Then her eyes filled. She looked down. Did I make it that bad? Sometimes. Ese nodded slowly. I'm sorry. Zara waited. Ese almost explained. Bank pressure. Clients. Suppliers. Fear. The endless feeling that one bad event would drag her back to the year she started the business from her aunt's dining table. She let all of it stay inside. "I'm sorry," she said again. Zara nodded. "Thank you." They discussed handover dates. Before leaving the office, Zara turned at the door. "Boss." "Yes?" "The new overtime sheet is good." Ese smiled. "Go away." Zara laughed and left. Ese looked at the closed door for a long time. Then she opened a blank document and typed 3 words. "Working under pressure." Underneath, she wrote, "What changes when I am stressed?" She stared at the question, then began answering it. Not for compliance. Not for Ronke. Not for Niyi, for herself. Niyi did not call for 9 days after the dinner. Ese respected the silence for 6. On the 7th, she wrote a message. "I am not asking you to change your mind. I only want you to know I understand more than I did that night." She deleted it. Too polished. She tried again. "I was cruel to people because I thought pressure gave me permission. It did not. I am dealing with the work consequences. I know the relationship consequence is yours to decide." She sent that one. Niyi replied 3 hours later. "Thank you for saying it plainly." "Nothing else," Ese cried in her car. Then wiped her face and went upstairs to a supplier meeting. Life was rude like that. It rarely stopped because your heart had become inconvenient. A month later, Niyi asked to meet. They chose a quiet cafe in Ikoyi on a Saturday afternoon. No families, no wedding planners, no ring discussion. Ese arrived first. She wore a simple orange blouse and dark trousers. Her hair was braided and tied back. No armor. Niyi came 10 minutes later. He sat opposite her. For a while, they talked about ordinary things. Work, traffic. A mutual friend who had finally moved to Abuja after threatening to do it for 4 years. Then the conversation ran out of places to hide. Ese looked at him. "I miss you." Niyi looked down at his coffee. "I miss you too." She took that in. It was not enough, but it was true. "I've changed some things at work, I heard." Her eyebrows rose. "From who?" "Not my mother." Ese almost smiled. "Okay." Niyi looked at her. "Tola told Bode your agency paid everything without dispute. Bode mentioned it to one of our mutual contacts. Lagos is a village when it wants to be." Ese sighed. "That is exactly what I hate." "What? Everybody knowing everybody?" Niyi smiled. Then his face became serious. "Are you doing it because you want me back?" Ese had prepared for that question. She still did not like hearing it. "At first," she said, "yes, partly." Niyi nodded. "And now?" Now Zara resigned. He waited. She had been interviewing before Meridian House. Niyi understood. Ese looked through the window. "So if I say Ronke destroyed my life, I would be lying. She just happened to be standing there when I could no longer hide from the pattern." Niyi said nothing. Ese turned back. "I'm not asking you to marry me." His face tightened. She kept going. "I want that." "Of course I do. But I know wanting it doesn't make you owe it to me." He rubbed his thumb against his palm. Ese had seen him do that 100 times. She had never noticed it came from his father because she had never met the man. Niyi looked at her. "If I told you I believe you can change, would you hear that as a promise?" Ese swallowed. "No, I do believe you can." Her eyes filled, he continued. "But I'm not ready to marry you." She nodded. A tear slipped down. She wiped it away. "Okay. I don't know whether we come back to each other later." "Okay. And I don't want you doing all this work, so one day you can present me with evidence and say, 'See, now you must return.'" A wet laugh escaped her. "That sounds like something I would do." "It does." She laughed again. Niyi smiled. Then he said the thing she would remember longer than the breakup itself. "If the change is real, it cannot depend on whether I marry you." Ese looked down. This time she did not argue. They stayed another 20 minutes. When they left, Niyi hugged her outside the cafe. Not as a fiancé, not as an enemy. As somebody who had loved her and still cared what happened next. Ese stood beside her car after he drove away. She looked at the empty passenger seat, then got in and went home. No one came running after her. That was part of the consequence, too. Ronke's changes moved more slowly. That surprised her. She could sign a capital approval in one afternoon. Changing how people spoke upward in a company took longer. At the first worker feedback meeting, senior managers filled the room with explanations. We already have an ethics hotline. We have quarterly staff surveys. Vendors sign conduct standards. Ronke listened for 20 minutes, then asked one question. How many contract cleaners have used the hotline in the last year? Nobody knew. Compliance checked. 3. Across the entire facilities group. Ronke looked at the number. Do you believe only 3 people had a problem? No one answered. Tola was invited to the next session. She arrived in her grey uniform because she had a shift afterward. Ronke met her at the conference room door. Tola stopped. This time she knew. Everybody knew now. Her eyes moved over Ronke's tailored cobalt suit, the executive floor, the glass walls, the assistants moving in and out. Then back to Ronke. Auntie Ronke. Ronke smiled. Madam Tola. Tola covered her mouth and laughed. I knew something was wrong with you. Apparently my cleaning was not convincing. No, your cleaning was fine. Your grammar was suspicious. Ronke laughed. Tola grew serious. You should have told me. Would you have spoken the same way? Tola thought about it. No, that is why. Tola folded her arms. Still, you let me correct you on marble. You were right. Tola shook her head. Rich people. Ronke smiled. Mercy said the same thing. Inside the meeting, Ronke did not put Tola at the far end of the table. She sat beside her. The group designed a worker-elected representative system for each large property. Contract cleaners and maintenance staff could nominate representatives without supervisor approval. Vendor reviews would include staff treatment feedback, not only client satisfaction and delivery scores. Scope changes during events had to be written and approved by the relevant supervisor. Break interference would be logged. Anonymous reporting remained. But workers could also bring concerns through elected representatives who received protected time for the role. One executive suggested a respect at workweek with posters. Tola looked at Ronke. Ronke looked at Tola. They both said no at the same time. The room laughed. Why? The executive asked. Tola answered. Because if somebody cannot take break, poster will not help. That ended the poster idea. 3 months later, workers at Meridian House elected Tola as one of their frontline representatives. Ronke did not appoint her. That mattered. When Tola called to tell her, Ronke said, Congratulations. Tola replied, Please don't congratulate me too much. They have given me extra trouble. You volunteered. I was deceived by democracy. Ronke laughed so loudly. Joseph looked at her through the rear-view mirror. Niyi and Ronke repaired their own boundary in smaller pieces. No speech fixed it. One Sunday, Niyi came for lunch and left his phone on the table while he went to wash his hands. Ronke saw a message preview from a woman named Dami. She looked away. That evening, Niyi asked, You didn't ask who Dami is. Ronke continued cutting pineapple. Should I? No. Then why are you asking? He smiled. Progress. Ronke pointed the knife at him. Don't provoke me, he laughed. Later she said, If you want me to know somebody, tell me. If you don't, I will wait. Niyi nodded. And if I tell you? I will not run a background check. Say it properly. Ronke sighed. I will not run a background check. Ask security to check quietly. Call your friends. Search corporate records, or invite anybody's auntie to lunch by coincidence. Niyi burst out laughing. That last one happened once. Once was enough. He shook his head. Then his voice softened. I'll also stop calling secrecy privacy. Ronke looked at him. Good. It was not dramatic. Most repair was not. 5 months after the Meridian House event, Ese returned there for the first time. Not for a luxury launch. Her agency had been allowed to submit for reconsideration after completing the required management actions. Bode invited her for the review meeting. Ese parked outside and sat in the car for 2 full minutes. The building looked exactly the same. Glass, pale stone, trimmed palms. The sight of it made her stomach tighten anyway. She entered through reception this time. Tola happened to be walking across the lobby with a clipboard. They saw each other. Both slowed. Ese walked over. Tola, good morning, ma. Ese winced slightly. You can call me Ese. Tola smiled. Good morning, Ese. There was a pause. Ese looked toward the east corridor. I wanted to say something before my meeting. Tola waited. I'm sorry. Tola's face did not change. Ese continued. Not because of who Ronke is. I should say that clearly. Tola nodded once. Ese swallowed. I spoke to you like your authority only mattered when it agreed with me. I tried to use future business to pressure you. I also treated your team's time as if it was cheaper than mine. Tola studied her. That is true. Ese almost smiled. I know. You were very troublesome. I know. Tola's mouth twitched. Ese said, I'm not asking you to tell the review panel anything. I know. How? Because if you were, you would have started with please put in a good word. Ese laughed. Fair. Tola held out her hand. Ese shook it. Good luck, Tola said. Thank you. Then Tola walked away. The review did not restore Ese automatically. Her agency returned on a probationary basis for smaller events first. Clear conditions. Clear reporting. No special favor. Ese accepted them. A year earlier, she would have called that insult. Now she called it terms. Before Ese left Meridian House that afternoon, she saw Simi and Faith near the service desk. For one cowardly second, she considered walking past. They had already seen her. Simi straightened. Faith stopped writing on a shift sheet. Ese walked over. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ma, Faith said. Ese looked at both women. I owe you an apology, too. She glanced at Faith. Ese continued before pride found another excuse. The day of the launch. I spoke to both of you badly. I tried to delay your breaks because another supplier had failed me. I also behaved as if your time mattered less, because you were cleaning the venue. Faith watched her carefully. Simi asked, Madam, are you apologizing because you know Auntie Ronke now? The question was so direct that Ese almost laughed. No. Simi waited. Ese nodded toward the corridor. If Ronke had really been a new cleaner and nothing else, I would still owe you this. Faith's face softened a little. Not much. Enough, Ese said. I'm sorry. Faith nodded. Okay. There was no hug, no instant friendship. Simi did not tell Ese she was a wonderful person deep down. People who have been spoken down to are not required to make the person who hurt them comfortable after an apology. Ese understood that now. She thanked them and started to leave. Simi called after her. Madam S turned. Simi pointed at the marble near reception. You see that black mark? Ese looked down. A faint line sat near the base of a display stand. Her stomach dropped for half a second. Then she saw Simi smiling. Don't worry, Simi said. We have the correct chemical. Faith burst out laughing. Ese covered her face with one hand. Please, I deserve that one. Yes, Ma, Simi said. Small. Ese laughed too. Then she moved aside so they could work. She did not instruct them how. It should not have felt like progress. It did. Later that week, Ese added one more item to her agency's event checklist. It sat beneath lighting confirmation, vendor arrival times, guest flow, and contingency contacts. Surface team contacts. Breaks confirmed, overtime authorized, task boundaries clear, escalation contact named. At first, Zara's replacement thought the line was strange. Shouldn't this be HR? He asked. Ese shook her head. No. If pressure is created by the event plan, it belongs in the event plan. That sentence would never appear in a glossy company brochure. It did something more useful. It changed how the next event was run. Ronke did not attend the meeting. She heard about it later in a quarterly report. By then, the cobalt cleaner uniform from that first shift had been washed and returned to the Meridian House staff locker room. One afternoon, Ronke visited the venue for the first worker council meeting. The meeting room was small, no boardroom table, plastic chairs in a rough circle, bottled water in a carton, a standing fan that clicked every time it turned left. Ronke arrived early. She passed the locker room on her way in. The door was open. Inside, hanging from a metal hook, was a cobalt blue tunic with a small faded inventory tag near the collar. Her tunic. Someone had washed out the grey mark near the hem. Ronke stepped inside. For a moment, she touched the sleeve. She could have asked to keep it, could have framed it in headquarters, could have turned it into a story executives told visitors about the humble billionaire who went undercover. She knew exactly how corporate mythology worked. She left it where it was. A uniform was not a trophy. Outside, voices gathered in the meeting room. Tola called, "Auntie Ronke, if you are late, we will start without you." Ronke smiled, coming. She closed the locker door and walked toward them. There are people who will tell you, character is what you do when nobody is watching. I think that is only half of it. Character is also what you do when the person in front of you cannot reward you, promote you, introduce you, embarrass you online, or call somebody powerful on your behalf. Ese thought Ronke had no power. That mistake exposed her. But the deeper lesson was never that the cleaner might secretly be rich. Ronke could have been exactly who Ese thought she was. A woman earning a day's pay with a mop, gloves, and sore feet. And every demand for basic dignity would still have been valid. At Meridian House, the worker council began before Ronke reached her chair. Tola did not stop to welcome her specially. She was already reading the first complaint. Ronke sat down and listened.